I'm going to church because I know that there are people there that have strong belief systems and faith. I know that I can meet people in an environment where it's open enough to have conversations, and I can connect with people there. Doesn't mean that I'm going to sell them the first day, but I can build relationships, and I think that relationships are the real revenue. When you have relationships, you can build anything. You talk about your network is your net worth. I think you can really start, and you meet a diverse group of people there, and diversity is the number one key in your business: ethnic diversity, geographic diversity, and socioeconomic diversity.
Welcome to MLM Nation, a podcast of leaders, by leaders, for leaders, hosted by Simon Chan. He's built a team of over 200,000 and is now a full-time MLM coach and trainer. So if you're ready to level up your business, join us now. Let's do this.
MLM Nation, this is Simon Chan. I'm fired up to bring our special guest today. We've had him once way back in year 2. We're having him again. He's been in the profession for over 20 plus years. We have Mark Sterling. Hey, Mark, are you ready to make it happen?
Absolutely, man. I wouldn't miss this call for the world, Simon. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. Hey, for those who don't know Mark Sterling, he has over 20 years, like I said, 20 years in the direct selling industry. He's been a six-figure earner, a leader, and also held corporate positions at various companies such as VP of Sales and the COO, and also co-founder and owner of his own company. He has grown teams in thousands and was first featured in MLM Nation in episode 165. You can definitely go check that out. So anyway, Mark, welcome to the show. Take us back, for those who don't know, take us back 20-something years ago. How did you get started in this profession?
Wow, you really take me back now. So I remember I had this conversation recently. I got a phone call from a friend. This was not long after 9/11, right? And we had been making pretty good money as consulting in the IT industry. And a friend called me and said, Mark, would you be open to taking a look at this business model? He called me on a Sunday. And watch this. It was because of who called me that I took a look at it, because I had brushed off, the industry for many years. So the guy called me, had a ton of respect for him, and he said, "Hey, there are meetings every Sunday." It was like Sunday at 2 when he called me, I remember. And the meeting was at 6 p.m. It was about an hour away. So what I told him, I said, he asked me if I could come the following week, and I said, "Well, is it okay to come today?" And I shared it with you because you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And I was like, "Hey, is it sold out? Is there a reason I can't come today?" And he said, "No, you can definitely come today. I just didn't think, last minute like this, that it would make sense for you." And I went and took a look at it. There was a guy at the front of the room who was selling a health and wellness drink. It was purple. It didn't smell very good, right? Didn't taste very good. But he was making like $60,000 a month. His English wasn't great, and he was overweight. So I'm like, wait a minute, you got an overweight guy that doesn't speak well, that's making this kind of money. Surely I can make 10 grand a month. That was my whole thought process back then. And what I realized very quickly was that it really wasn't about where he came from, what he sounded like. It was about he understood the industry. He learned a skill set where he could connect and develop people. And from there, I wound up joining that company. And I had a specific number in mind. I wanted to make $2,764 a month when I got involved in the industry. And that whole year, from April to end of the year, I only made $2,700 for the year. The amount of money I wanted to make, Simon, was enough to cover my mortgage. It was enough to cover my car note and family maintenance. And some of us might know family maintenance by another term called child support. I wanted to make enough money to actually offset my household bills that came in. I wanted to celebrate zero. That was my big goal when I first got in. It wasn't to make $1 million or hundreds of thousands or impact people around the world. It was to make enough to offset my residual bills.
Why did you want to attend the presentation right now? What happened at that time in your life?
I had actually gotten laid off from a very lucrative consulting gig that I was involved in. So I got married the month after 9/11 and lost my job consulting. I was in a niche industry, consulting in the IT space for wireless companies. I was traveling the world, putting in new systems, and you couldn't have told me that job, that would have gone away. Never, it'll pay me for years. And I learned very quickly at that point that even though I had other folks working for me and with me, that I didn't really own a business. I owned a job. It was me exchanging time for dollars. And so I wanted at least something passive enough to come in that would offset what what I owed to people. Let's call them, bill collectors. No. Debt, yeah. We have recurring bills that come in every month. Matter of fact, here's a quick funny story. My wife, I asked her, I said, "Hey, if we ever have a kid, a son specifically, we cannot name him William." She said, "Why not?" I said, "Because I want no more bills coming to my household." I said that. It sounds like a dad joke now, but I was very serious about it at the time. So that was the reason why I looked at the industry, because I wanted to find something that I could do that even if I built it up, it would actually pay me enough to actually offset my basic household bills.
You said you made 2,700 your first year.
April through December. Yeah,
That is actually more than most people make. What attributed to your quote unquote success?
$2,700 over 8 months. That was like $300 a month.
Yeah, but most people don't even make that. They're struggling. So what did you do?
Well, here's the thing. No, I mean, I went out there. They gave me these charging orders. They said, "Hey, go sponsor 12, and when you sponsor 12, three or four are going to quit. 3 or 4 are going to actually just be great consumers of the product, and 3 or 4 are going to do the business. And one of them is actually going to go out and become a superstar." So I bought into that philosophy of the 1 in 3 rule, right? So I went and did that, and then some other folks started coming in, and I recognized, I didn't think it was a lot of money, but let me tell you why I got super excited about the 2,700. I got excited because the company did what they said they were going to do in exchange for the amount of volume revenue that I initiated and my small team did to the company. I got compensated for that. And I said, wait a minute, if I can do this in production mode, imagine what I can do in reproduction mode. Because I was approaching it the same way I did traditional business, where, you know what, I can do most of the work and get compensated for it. But I had to develop my skills of attraction in order to grow a team. Because what I recognized very quickly, Simon, was the people stopped building in my organization at level 2. I had 1 or 2 people on level 3, but my voice wasn't going deep enough because I wasn't implementing events. I wasn't implementing tools that would assist me in that growth when people couldn't hear my voice, but they could hear a replicated voice of the tools and the systems. So I learned that skill set because I went out and started finding people who had my desired result. And when I went out there and I started interviewing people in other companies, the company I was a part of, and to me, it made perfect sense after that, that what I was doing was not a duplication nation kind of way. It was really, you know what, I'm exchanging my efforts no matter how hard I was working. I made $2,700 as I bust my butt, but how can I get to a point where I could still work hard at the beginning, but also create an environment and a culture of success where others would do the same thing and replicate?
So what was a specific aha moment or maybe event or something you learned, a book or whatever, where things really, after that moment, things really start ticking off?
Yes. So some of the things we just talked about, that's a great question. Some of the things we just talked about come from me wanting to say, you know what, I'm going to interview folks, and I got tools. I got skill sets to go implement, but none of them would happen without the right mindset. The number one book, people always talk about Think and Grow Rich, an amazing book, and they talk about The Science of Getting Rich with Wallace, Wattles, another amazing book. The one that really, there was an audio in the book that really changed and helped me form mindset wise, give me the mental fortitude, if you will, to go out there and do things at a different level. Claude and Bristol's book, the Magic of Believing, absolutely impacted me in a major way, especially when you start talking about the mirror technique and talking to yourself and really getting you to a point where the lie that you tell yourself becomes the truth that actually becomes, right? I started telling myself lies, and if people are hearing this audio, I'm like, oh, there they go. Those guys are lying, right? A lie, by definition, is not something good or bad. It's something currently not true. So I started telling myself things that I wanted to have happen in my life, my goals. I started telling myself and sharing with myself and talking to myself over and over again. I'm happy and grateful I make this amount of money in this period of time. I'm happy and grateful. I talk those kind of goals about my health, my family, my finances. And I did that, and my belief system started to grow. Matter of fact, in that one book, Think and Grow Rich, there's a chapter on faith, and I think it's the second paragraph that says, repetition of orders to the subconscious mind It's the only known method to voluntarily develop the emotion of faith. Simon, I didn't know faith was an emotion, and I know that you can grow emotions, you can impact them. I didn't. It also said repetition of information, which means that there must be things said over and over and over again for it to become the norm, especially in your subconscious mind. And the last part of that was it says to impact or voluntarily impact the emotion of faith, which to me meant that there were involuntary ways or subconscious ways. For example, television, the radio. What are we listening to that doesn't serve us, right? So I started putting on anything that I could get my hands on that was personal development. I would listen to it overnight. I would study. I would watch YouTube videos, all the greats back then. There's so many authors, and I would have mentors of people that I never met in my life. I would borrow their experiences and their success until they became my thoughts, and then I could put my own slant, my own flavor, if you will, on top of that. So those are the things. That was my X factor. Those are my slight edge principle right there, like Jeff Olson, right? It will be the books and the audios. I think, matter of fact, what's the guy's name that owned Executive Books? Charlie Tremendous Jones, right?
Yeah.
He said you will be the same person 5 years from now that you are today, except for the books you read and the people you meet. And I really believe that.
Totally, definitely. I think the places you travel to, the people, because when you travel, expands your mind, expands your dream building, and
Yes.
meeting people even better.
Experiences, for sure.
How have you seen the industry change in the last 10 years? Since last time we interviewed was like 9 years ago, 8 years ago. How have you seen the profession change? Because you're on doing exciting things now. How have you seen the profession change?
I live by a philosophy that's evolve or evaporate, and the industry has definitively evolved. I think it's grown up to grow back. Now, what I mean by that is when the industry first, got going years and years and years ago, it was let's find a small group of distributors, right, sales folks, and let them go get a tremendous amount of customers. They get paid in those customers, right? The old Amway models, for example, and the early Herbalife and New Skins of the world, who are around to this day. And it changed into a lifestyle modality some years ago, right? And people were out, hey, all we're going to do is get distributors and we're going to bring them in. And it's all about getting volume off of individuals for a compensation plan. I think the industry is corrected back to a point now where it's all about customer acquisition. How can the company and the field find a hybrid or a sweet spot where we can go out and share our products and services for individuals that consume them? Because at some point, distributors will leave and go to other companies. But if your product and service is rich enough, is robust enough, you will create sticky and frothy customers. I like that term. When one of the wireless companies I used to consult for said they wanted sticky and frothy customers. How do you create a culture of individuals that love your products and services and consume them regardless of the compensation model? And if you do that, not only will the customer stay benefiting the company, but also your distributors will stay longer because they have a more predictable income.
Yes. So let me ask you this. I know you're doing exciting things, starting a new company, right?
Yes.
Launching. Congrats. That takes a lot of courage and sacrifice and risk as well.
Yes.
A lot of people have been saying network marketing is on decline because you look at the numbers, especially as after COVID. COVID was a spike. It's decreasing. Leaders' checks have gone down. And by the way, if you're listening to this or watching this for the first time, hopefully that didn't destroy your belief. But definitely it's gone down for a lot of people. But you are actually launching a company, starting. Why?
When the world zigs, I zag. Now, for example, there are a lot of people right now, the realtors, for example, that got out of the real estate industry because, rates have gone up. Less people are buying right now, or they can't afford to get into the market. But there are the key people who are thriving at a totally different level right now. I've always been of the mindset to focus on what the winners do and replicate it. So when people leave something, an area, that often means that there's an opportunity. I think the wealthiest people, the most entrepreneurial people in the world, find out what that opportunity is and they solve for it. Example: if it started raining right now or a tornado came, let's say in the southern part of the United States, most people would leave, right? They would evacuate. But then there are others who actually go down there and they realize that the opportunity, and they sell umbrellas, they sell tents, they sell generators, right? So how do you get to a place where you can solve for a problem when the problem, either before the problem comes or during the problem? The last one I'll say on that was way back in, years ago. I remember visiting, I used to consult out in Seattle, Washington, right? And I was doing a tour of downtown on the weekend. I had to stay over the weekend. And I didn't realize that there was an underground, like an entire city of Seattle was under Seattle, right? I didn't know that. And so I was taking a tour and I started looking around and I'm seeing all these shops. I'm like, how is there a whole city in here? They talked about how the city had burned down years earlier because it was all wood, the streets were wood, and somebody somehow or another something got lit and burned the whole city up, right? So with all that said, though, they started showing all of these shops that were places where they would sell tools for folks going out for the gold rush. They would go either to California or they would go to Alaska. Seattle was a stopping point to kind of, get all their supplies together. And they said it was the most amazing thing that hit me. What the tour guide said, the people who got the wealthiest were not the prospectors. It was the ones who sold the shovels.
No.
That blew me away. Bring it a full circle. This is a season right now where we can empower people to sell shovels. This is a season right now we can equip individuals to go out there and position themselves to do it bigger and better when the market may seem to be, retracting. There's huge opportunities. And I think we have that with super solid products and services right now.
Yeah, I think that you've seen that related to that, the gold rush thing. That's what, for those who don't know, Levi's jeans was founded during the gold rush because people needed thick pants to wear where they can go dig for gold, right? And another example is the people who made a lot of money in the real estate is the ones who bought property in the last crash in '08, right? And then I'll end with this one. Is one of my favorite quotes is by Warren Buffett. I'm sure you've heard this. It's like, be fearful when others are greedy, but greedy when others are fearful.
Absolutely.
It goes back to your philosophy, right. Zig and zag. Yeah, and I think you look at the profession, we've been around for direct selling's been around for over 100 years.
Yes.
And it survived, world wars, it survived recessions, depressions, stock market crashes. Why do you think the profession's always going to be around?
I think it's always going to be around because it does several things. One, it gives people hope. It levels the playing field. I heard someone once say, no matter if you're from Yale or from jail, you can get involved in this industry, right? I think it levels the playing field. Number one, gives hope. Number two, people always want. I think the industry makes the best products and services. Period. Point blank. So you have an opportunity to share something with the world that can actually be of a positive impact, right? Three, it reduces the static and the noise of trying to be sold by a commercial, for example. No matter how many commercials you see, you're always hesitant. You don't know if it's the truth. But when you hear from someone, there's a different level of trust before you can have product exposure. So, for example, you and I have been. Matter of fact, I want to say thank you, Simon. After all those years, every single year, those 8 years you talked about, I get the day before my birthday. You're taking your walk, and I get a happy birthday message every single year, and that's consistency. At first, I think consistency is the cheat code, right? But you're one of the most consistent people I know. So thank you for that. To that point, when you know someone, there's a level of trust. And now we go into the referral marketing aspect where you can share a product with someone. They trust you enough at least to try it one time. If there's a benefit, then they can go ahead and they can make purchases. So I don't think those things ever go away. I don't think they ever go away. No different. My wife and I saw a good movie. We streamed it the other night. We told some friends and family about it because they hadn't seen it yet. The referral aspect is always going to be there. And why not get commissioned for it?
Yeah. That birthday message, everyone. Yes, it's been 9 years since I've been singing Mark, and I'm still consistently bad at singing after all those years. But one thing to know too, like for those who reach out to people, right, and you don't hear back. I mean, I know you probably see them, but it's not every year you reply back to them, right? And I think that's a note. Like if you do a social media post, I didn't get an engagement. Probably 1/3, half the times, Mark, you sometimes you say thank you so much, but you don't even reply back. But that doesn't mean he doesn't see it, right? Because I know Mark is busy, right? And I'm sure he gets hundreds of birthday messages as well. So you got to stay consistent. Um, I was recently at this Leaders of Leaders mastermind in Hawaii, and we're talking about how, like what you said, that there's so much noise out there. And I will share this with you later. I'll send it to you. Where someone talked about the dopamine effect, where everyone can have a voice now, but let me ask you this: I'm sure you're on Instagram and TikTok, whatever. What are 10 videos you saw today? You probably don't even remember them.
I remember, yeah.
Right? You may laugh at it, you may like it, whatever, but you don't remember it. But you remember that, like you said, that face-to-face, right? That interaction.
Yes.
Interaction, or that birthday message you get, right? It's that stuff. And I think that network marketing removes that static, right? You have that relationship. In what ways, when you're training your company, your team, what would you emphasize people have to do now in 2024 in order to be successful?
A lot of it right now is social proof, right? You almost have to. Here's the thing. I think you should meet people where they are. Let me go back. I think you should meet people where they are. There are some folks that say, you know what, I want to go and have an in-home meeting, with the old party plan, right? And invite some folks over and share the benefits of whatever your widget is, right? That's okay. There's some folks that say, you know what, I'm going to create a theme page. It's going to be faceless, and I'm going to put up these, user-generated content videos, and it's going to be amazing, right? Meet them where they are. There's some folks that say, you know what, I want to do Zoom meetings and talk to people and from the comfort of my home. Meet them where they are. I'm not one to say that only one thing works. I'm not an absolutist. What I do believe is that people will find what works best for them and let them do it. As long as it's legal, moral, ethical, and compliant, I fully support it. So I don't want to limit anyone. It reminds me of the Avengers, right? Each one of them had a special gift and talent they brought, but collectively they always accomplished their end goal, which was to defeat something or to win something, right? And that's kind of the mindset that, the attribution that I give to the field is say, look, do what works. But we may put tools in place, and we're not going to charge you for the tools. I've always been one to say, never charge the Army for the bullets. If they're going to fight with you, give them free supplies, right? But if they want to bring their own supplies and go do something, whether it's attraction marketing, it's social media driven, if it's person to person, like you say, belly to belly, I fully support all of that. As long as we're not, as long as we're compliant, I support it all.
Yeah, you have so many good old school saying, never charge the Army for the bullets. I love that.
Yeah.
That's a good advice there. This is my favorite question. In your 20 plus years, what is your worst moment in the profession? But to the point that you wanted to quit, but you didn't quit, and that's why you are where you are today.
I'll give you two. One just happened, I learned about today, and one happened my very first week in the industry. My first few days were almost my last few days, right? My next door neighbor sold me my home. This is when we first got in the industry. Great guy, real estate guy. And I came home and I printed off all these pages, and I wanted to make a flip book. I didn't even have the flip book in place yet. And when I called him, I told him, I knocked on his door and said, hey, buddy, I got to show you something. And I'm flipping over pages. I'm trying to do the presentation. I'm totally messing this thing up, right? I was brand new. I was just so excited. And he said, hey, I know about these things. And he told me, now mind you now, he sold me my home, and he sold me rental property. We had a condo as well. And he told me, he said, you know what, when you make your first $10,000, call me, and then I'll do your little business. And it almost destroyed me, because it's only $200 to join. And surely somebody who made thousands and thousands in commissions from me buying properties from him would at least spend that money to support me. But he was very adamant that no. And so I was almost discouraged by that. But what I realized very quickly was someone else's no doesn't mean that I couldn't do it. It means I couldn't do it with him. And that was okay. So that was probably one of my worst moments. It happened very early, because there was nowhere in the world that person should not have made a purchase for me. But I've learned now that, again, love folks for where they are, not for where you want them to be. Now, the other one is this. I didn't know this person personally, but I do know who the person is. I found out that someone passed away yesterday, 37 years old, went into the emergency room, had a headache, wound up, hemorrhaging and died at there. Matter of fact, he sent a picture to a group. He had a conference call, sent a picture to a group and said, "Hey guys, I can't do the call tonight. You guys will see I'm in the emergency room," kind of jovial, jokingly, right? And then went back and they tried to release pressure and he died. This happened just yesterday. So you start losing people that you become close to. The upside of what I shared was you get to meet people and have these connections that you may normally never have. I have friends in probably 15, 16 countries right now because of this industry. I probably would never met them, right? But the downside is the breadth of your connections and the depth of them get pretty rich. So now you have these connections and you lose people and you're like, wow. But you know there's stories. This one guy had actually gone to jail for doing some things when he was younger, came out. I'm using a big number here, but he got involved in some trading and straightened his life out and made $100 million in this industry. And he died at 37. So I say all to say that the ups and downs can be personal experience, or they can be experiences from someone else, but they all can be deeply impactful.
How important is consistency to success?
Consistency is the cheat code. If you want to win at a high level, you have to be consistent. You know, it goes back to the old Southern expression. Priming the pump. You know, if you want to get water out that water well, you got to prime the pump. The first several times you prime it or pump it, it doesn't come out. But if you do it long enough and consistently enough, the water eventually comes out. The results eventually happen. And here's what else I'll say about consistency. The seed that you plant in the ground never yields the same amount. It always yields more. So, but sowing and harvest are different seasons. They never happen at the same time. And you have to realize that the and period is the time period. When I sow and when I harvest, there's a different period of time. So you have to get to a point you realize what I'm putting in at the beginning is getting me to a point where I'm preparing myself for another level. Unfortunately, we live in such a microwave society, especially with the reels and the TikTok, and all the short videos, and they get you and you wind up getting caught up in that rabbit hole, but you never remember them. But it's the work that you do outside of being seen. It's the work that you do behind the scenes. That gets you to a point where mindset wise, you're unstoppable. And that's the number one thing for me is how do you get to a point where mindset wise, you have to do what you have to do, regardless of what's going on in the rest of the world.
Obviously, you're very consistent, but you have so many things going on. How do you stay consistent? Do you have specific routines or habits?
Yes. So we had this conversation a few days ago. I booked my family first. Now, people ask me all the time, man, how do you maintain? I don't maintain balance. No, you got to be out of balance sometimes. Matter of fact, if you want to be extraordinary, you have to be extra out of balance at times, right? That there's a season of sacrifice when you're in building mode, right? There's a season of sacrifice. What I did though is I got permission from my wife, by the way, who she's my partner and co-founder of my company, right? But I got permission from her to say, you know what, there's going to be some sacrifices. But it was the law of buy-in for the sacrifices that allows me to do some of the things that I do, right? I got buy-in from my children. Hey guys, dad's going to be less available for a period of time. But what I did do was I on my calendars, I put down my priorities. I go to church. That's my thing, right? I go to church on Sundays, right? So I have my devotion time. There's a period of time in the morning that is for me. There's a period of time that I have for date night. Every Monday, my wife and I spend an hour together, right? And we do what's called a marriage working session. And we do that. Why? Because if I can take my car in for service, surely I can spend some time and service my marriage, right? Before anything bad happens. So there are things that are on the books that are static and won't change. And I book my business around them. I might work 15, 16 hours, but those things take priority.
Awesome nuggets of wisdom. Hey, thank you so much, Mark. You've been definitely 2 decades of experience here. As we wrap up the show, some quick questions to pick your brain, and these can be quick one-liners. So the first one is, what is one of your favorite success quotes that motivates you?
Believe bigger, faster.
What's one habit that's helped you become successful?
Consistency and integrity. That's two parts.
What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
Borrow from tomorrow's promise so that you can do the activities of today.
Well, say that again. Borrow from tomorrow's promise.
Borrows from tomorrow's promise
Yeah.
so that you can do the work that's required today.
What's your favorite prospecting tool that you use? So you have a qualified prospect. What do you like to use? Do you send a video? Do you do a one-on-one to Zoom? Get on the phone? What do you like to use?
I'm heavy on Zoom or face to face. I like to see. For example, I called someone yesterday, sent them some product. Even at this level, I sent them some product, and I asked them to actually. I did a little FaceTime, and I said, "Hey, can you drink it while I see you drink it?" Sounds crazy, right? But they did it, and they fell in love with the product. So again, for me, it's about experience.
What's your favorite app on your phone that's not a social media app?
That's not a social media app. Good Lord. What's that?
What are 2 or 3 books you could recommend to MLM Nation?
2 or 3 books. Good books. Okay. I'm reading this one right now. Number 1, Thomas Troward. It's a 5-book series: The Hidden Power, The Creative Process, An Individual, The Law of the Word, the Edinburgh Lectures, and the Door Lectures. Hold on, let me get that to you.
Yeah. Oh, who's it by?
Thomas Troward. Let me get off here. There we go, right there. He has 5 books in one.
Cool. I got to check that out. I've never heard of that book before.
Yeah, magic, brother. This is magic right here. So yeah, the Science of Getting Rich is always a favorite of mine. Precursor to Napoleon's Think and Grow Rich. There's an audio I highly recommend. It is spiritual based, but again, it's the number one tool that has actually impacted my life from a believing perspective to help me stay consistent. It's by Bishop I.V. Hilliard. It's called How to Eliminate Doubt and Unbelief. How to Eliminate Doubt and Unbelief. It's a 3 audio series.
And then the last question, the $1 million question. You ready?
Yes.
So imagine you had to start all over again, Mark, and you knew no one. You didn't even know your wife, didn't know your kids, but you had all your current knowledge, skills, and wisdom. What's the first thing you do or the first place you go to find prospects and build a network marketing business from scratch?
I'm going to church. I'm going to church because I know that there are people there that have strong belief systems and faith. I know that I can meet people in an environment where it's open enough to have conversations, and I can connect with people there. Doesn't mean that I'm going to sell them the first day, but I can build relationships, and I think that relationships are the real revenue. When you have relationships, you can build anything. You talk about your network is your net worth. I think you can really start, and you meet a diverse group of people there, and diversity is the number one key in your business: ethnic diversity, geographic diversity, and socioeconomic diversity.
As we wrap up, any last words or advice? And then what's the best way our listeners can connect with you, Mark?
Absolutely. You can find me on Instagram at Mark A. Sterling Official. You can find me on Facebook at Mark A. Sterling Official. The number one advice I would give to anybody who's looking at this industry is to don't judge yourself by other people's success. Your success is a personal journey. Take charge of your life, believe bigger, faster. And at the end of the day, no matter what anyone else says, you are good enough.
MLM Nation, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And today you've been hanging out with Mark Sterling. So keep up the momentum. Head over to MLMNation.com. Click on the podcast tab, the show notes to this episode with the nuggets of wisdom, the books that Mark recommended, and also the links to his profile will be right there. Definitely go follow him and check him out. Hey, in order to be successful in life and business, you must help others. So Mark, thanks again for sharing your valuable time with MLM Nation. We're grateful to you, and we appreciate you for having a positive impact on millions of distributors worldwide. Thank you so much again, and God bless you.
God bless.
Hey, MLM Nation, Simon Chen here. Quick recap of a great show from Mark Sterling. I love it. I still remember, even though it's been 8-9 years, I still remember the first interview we did with him, and just tons of nuggets of wisdom. And I think one of the major aha moments, first one, is that, hey, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person, right? His sponsor invited him to the meeting, and he wanted to join right away, right? Wanted to go to the meeting right away, even though he has said no many, many times, but he decided to do it because the timing was right. And he wasn't crazy about the product, wasn't crazy about the person, but he's like, hey, if that person can do it, make 6 figures, I want to do it. And not everyone sometimes are in for the big money. He just wanted at that time to make enough to pay for his household expenses, to do that. But his aha moment was really seeing that, hey, the magic of duplication, and then that's mindset, right? Now, I always talk about 95% of success is mindset. If you think wrong, you're never going to be successful. If you have the right mindset but no skills, eventually, yeah, you do need some skills. I'll say 5%. Eventually, you will become successful, and it's how you handle those challenges. And I definitely go check out those books. I'll put them in the show notes page there. You can head over to MLMNation.com, click on the podcast tab. I'll talk about the magic of believing. I love that if you lie to yourself enough times, it becomes the truth, right? And a lot of classics here. The Science of Getting Rich, Think and Grow Rich, all the classic books that people have been recommending for over years and years and years. I love what he talked about. He's starting his own company right now, has belief and passion for the profession. And I really believe that opportunities come when most people are scared. This is during the stock market. When it crashes, the people who make the big money is when they jumped in, right? In crypto, when it goes up and everyone joins in there, most of the time they lose money. But when it goes crashing down, you get in. That's when the big opportunities are. Some of you, if you feel network marketing is going down, that's just people like entrepreneur, people like Mark. This is when they go in. Right? I love, and that quote from Warren Buffett: "When others are greedy, be fearful. Be greedy when others are fearful." Right? Be greedy. Now's the time to get in. And I know there's a lot of competition. Uber, freelancing, Airbnb, different options for people to make a side hustle. But network marketing is still, because it sells hope. And I think that's what it is. It's like, I shared in the last recent podcast from the highlights from the Leaders Mastermind, where, like, for me, if you're talking about just a side hustle, I wouldn't have been that interested, right? But I got interested because I saw the big potential. The big potential of making 6-figure residual, not to have a job again, control my time, and that's what got me in. And I think we can't forget that. That is the strength of network marketing, selling that hope. And recently I was reading something about how, again, I'm American. I live in the U.S. I know a lot of you are overseas, and thank you for listening. But in America, the American government likes and loves network marketing because it sells hope. It sells the American dream. The American dream, if it didn't have a job, it may not be possible. But network marketing, that American dream is still possible. I think it may require a lot of work, but it's still possible. Well, if you went through traditional routes of having a job and stuff, you're never going to have that. So a lot of other good moments. I meet people where they're at. Does someone know doesn't mean you can't do it. You can't do it. You're just saying not with him. Consistency is a cheat code. Just so many nuggets of wisdom here. Very inspiring, motivating. Definitely go listen to this and share this with someone that needs to hear this message. So anyway, if you like this, please subscribe. If you don't like it, hit subscribe. Leave me a review. Subscribe to us on the YouTube as well. Definitely go follow Mark as well. These interviews, he's super busy, but I'm super grateful he took the time to do this. So definitely give him some social media love, and also give me some love as well. Subscribe to us on YouTube and on your podcast so that more people can see this. When people search for business podcasts, this will pop up. So it really legitimizes our profession. And not like what his original prospect says, this small business, because it's definitely not a small business. It will require a lot of work, just like in any other business, but it is big money, right? So I think that's what excites us about our profession. And never forget about that. So, hey, that's what I have. Make sure you go apply what you learn and go out there and have a positive impact on someone's life. God bless you all.